Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Um, Welcome to my first video here on the channel. And I wanted to do this video because 7 weeks ago I went through open heart surgery at 48 years old. Um, and I know that I am not the first person to go through this. Um, some of you have gone through it, some of you are getting ready to go through it. And I wanted to share my story about my process and what it was like and what the healing process has actually been like for me. Um, because I think that's helpful. At least I hope it'll be helpful to some of you out there. So um, here I am putting it out there for you guys. So I guess I wanted to start with why I needed surgery. And the reason I needed surgery was to replace a aneurysm, or to repair an aneurysm on my aortic artery, and to replace my aortic valve on my heart. So um, it all started one night when I got into bed, and I was laying in bed, and I started having some severe chest pain, um, and I it kind of threw me for a loop, and I started thinking to myself, "Oh my gosh, I'm having a heart attack." Um, I'm not the healthiest of men, but I thought I was doing okay, but obviously not. So I started having some chest pain. Um, Immediately, my family, my wife, and my teenage kids jumped into action, and we called 911, and my son administered some aspirin under my tongue. All the things that you're supposed to do for a heart attack. Um, and after the paramedics arrived, they checked for signs of heart attack, and I was not having a heart attack, which was a blessing, but I didn't know what the problem was then. So after going into the hospital, it was discovered that I had an aortic aneurysm, and it was potentially leaking, which was a pretty devastating blow because those of you who don't know, aortic aneurysms, if they do open up, you die. Pretty much, you die because you will just bleed out into your body because no blood's going into your heart. So that was hard to deal with. So I was pretty shocked. I did not expect something like that to be happening to me. Um, Especially like I said at 48, which is not super old, and you think that you're in at least decent health, but um, yeah, it was pretty interesting. So from there, the day of surgery was another interesting experience. There's a lot that I went through. The night before, um, I have small children, and it's pretty much just me and my wife. And my wife was not able to be there with me the evening before my surgery, so I went through a lot of emotion that night. I was pretty scared, um, and I had no one to really share that scaredness with. So I called up a friend of mine, and she prayed with me, and that was very, 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 very helpful and comforting. Um, and that was the night before surgery. They came and got me and took me down to the room that I would be in after my surgery. They brought me to that same room, the night before, after I had this phone call with a friend of mine. A couple hours later, they took me down to that room, and I spent the rest of the night in that room. And then they took me from that room into surgery. But that previous night, there were a few kind of embarrassing things that I felt. Um, before they took me down to that room. Uh, One of them was I didn't know that I would have to be completely shaved from my neck down to my ankles. Uh, I would have to be completely shaved, and I'm a pretty hairy guy, so two nurses came in and went at me with clippers, and that was kind of embarrassing, but I made it through. Um, and like I said, I spent the rest of that night downstairs in my room that I would be going back to after my surgery. And once I got back down to that room, once they took me down to that room, the first thing I remember is them opening the door and wheeling me in there. They had me in a wheelchair at that point, so they're wheeling me into this room, and there's a bed there in the room, obviously, and but I didn't even really see the bed. All I remember seeing were just the masses of machinery that were next to the bed, and thinking to myself, man, I have messed up so incredibly bad, that I am in this room looking at all of these scary looking machines, at least to me they were, and wondering how many of them I would be hooked up to. So that was not very pleasant. So surgery day came around. I slept probably a couple of hours that night. Once they got me in the bed, I pretty much just closed my eyes and held them shut by sheer force. I was not tired, but I held my eyes closed because I did not want to see any of those machines that were in that room. I didn't want to see them. They were only going to spike my anxiety level even higher, and I just didn't even want to look. I didn't want to look around the room anymore, so I shut my eyes. I was able to sleep for a couple of hours, and then, about I guess maybe about 6:30 in the morning, a couple of surgical team members came in and started talking to me. Just getting me ready to get down there by 8 o'clock. My surgery was scheduled to start at 8 o'clock. So they were getting me down there, getting me prepped and everything. And so yeah, they came in and talked to me and put some different stickers on me and some things that would be used while I was on the surgical table. And that part wasn't bad. They were actually pretty comforting. And it was nice to, they would stand close to me and talk to me, and it was actually not bad. It was up to that point. It was the most pleasant experience that I had where I felt the most comforted. I think part of that was that I knew that there was no turning back at that point either, and so I had to just accept whatever was coming my way, and so. They take me down into the operating room, and honestly, the operating room for some reason did not look as scary as my room did with all those machines next to my bed. I don't know if it's laid out that way. There were a lot of machines in there, but for some reason they didn't look as scary. And I think there were so many team members that were getting me prepped for surgery that also I didn't really have a chance to really look around and let the fear set in. So that was okay. And it was a pretty quick process. I mean, I think once they took me into the operating room and as soon as they wheeled me in, they just, maybe there were 7 people in there, somewhere around there. They all just kind of jumped into action. And I kind of feel like maybe it was, I would say less than 10 minutes for sure. And I'm gauging that by, they had music on in there, and they had asked me beforehand what kind of music I liked. And so when I got in there, they were playing, music that I liked. And so I was focusing on that, and I only remember hearing about 2-3 songs max before they were done getting me all connected to everything that I needed to be connected to and just ready to put me under. And so that process wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So once the time came around for the procedure to start, they kind of said, "All right, let's get going," and they put me under, and the next thing I remember was 2 days later. Um, so that was kind of interesting. I do remember one thing. I remember opening my eyes and kind of seeing that I was back in the room, um, and I remember that I had remembered from the night that I was in that room that there was a clock on the wall, and so um, I remember kind of being really out of it, and I remember kind of opening my eyes, and I remember somebody saying, I'm presuming it was the nurse that was in there. I remember the nurse saying, "Here he comes," or something like that, and I remember opening my eyes and looking at the wall and trying to see what time it was, and I just couldn't even see the clock. And I remember looking at the window, and it was kind of a sunset sky that was coming through the window. So I think my procedure ended up taking about 6 hours. I think 5 6 hours. But honestly, I don't remember because the real the actual next memory that I have, besides trying to look at the clock and seeing the sunset coming through the window, the next thing that I remember was 2 days later after my surgery. So and I remember opening my eyes and my wife was there. Sorry. And two of my kids, my two oldest kids, because um, the two younger ones were not allowed in because they weren't old enough. So I remember seeing my wife and my kids, but not being able to say anything because I was still intubated. Um, and I remember just holding their hands and them squeezing my hands. And then everything that I had gone through um, was okay. Um, and it was okay before that because um, I knew that God had me. And I remember just praying over and over and over for every next breath, um, and every next breath being given to me. And so I knew that I was okay. But seeing my wife and my kids for the first time 2 days later, that was a really special moment for me. So anyway, I'm now and there's a lot more that I'm going to get into in future videos about this, but um, I'm now 7 weeks since my surgery, and I'm feeling fantastic. Honestly, uh, I have more energy now than I had before, and I didn't even know anything was wrong with me before. But I have more energy now than I had before. I have more motivation now than I had before, and I don't know if that's because I'm just my body's feeling better, or because I almost lost my life, and I feel like that maybe tends to change you and make you want to be more motivated. So anyway, so why am I sharing this with you guys? And I'm not a doctor. Um, I'm just a guy who went through this, and I know how lonely and scary it can be, and that's why I'm here. I just want to be a place where other people can look to for inspiration or for hope or for any of those things. If you might be going through this as well, you're welcome here. Um, I'm gonna start really getting into some details of some more detailed things as well in future videos, as well as what my actual uh, healing process has been like. So anyway, that's kind of my that's my story, you guys. That's the short version, and I will get into some more details of some more of it later because there is more to it. But that's just kind of an overview of what you guys can expect here. So if this story has helped you or gave you any kind of inspiration in any way, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel because I'm going to have more content coming for you guys to check out. So subscribe to the channel, like the video. That just lets the YouTube algorithm know that you like what I'm putting out there, and we'll share it with more people. And I think when I was looking for YouTube channels for my own knowledge and for my own help with my mental health and my recovery, I couldn't really find many. So I'm one of those people that say, okay, well, if you can't find one, then make one, and let's build a community together and support each other. So thank you all so much for being here. I really, really, really appreciate each and every one of you for taking time to watch this, and I look forward to seeing you all in a future video. Thank you so much again, and I am Daniel, and we will see you later.